Hello guys, in this video here we will be taking a look at the SteelSeries Prime eSports gaming mouse. This here is a fairly new product, and since the release I really wanted to test this mouse because it looks fairly good, and they talk a lot of that it have been like co-developed with top eSports players and such. And when looking at the packaging here, we also have this symbol or achievement of best esports mouse from PCMag.com. I'm not really read PCMag.com myself, so I don't really know how big that achievement would be, but it will be interesting to test it. The SteelSeries Prime also comes in the Prime Plus that got an OLED screen underneath, but then you also have to pay a little bit of a higher price. So I just got the normal one, and you also have the Prime Wireless that costs like almost 2 times as much. So if you really want to have a wireless mouse, you also have that option, but that also comes in at a higher cost. So we can see here on the packaging here, SteelSeries Prime Precision Esports Gaming Mouse. So as I said earlier, they have really co-developed it with top esports players, started out with a certain design and worked their way into this end design here that we see in the product. So it should be very nice and ergonomic, and also shaped for the best performance when it comes to gaming. So when it comes to the overall looks of the mouse, it looks fairly nice and sleek. It's not like it looks very cool in any way, it's just really round and such, but it looks to be very comfortable just looking at it. They've not really put a lot of effort into the looks, I guess, and they also don't really have a lot of RGB lights, even though we have one like zone of RGB lights on the mouse wheel. But for me, it would look nicer if it had some more RGB, but then we need to compensate in another way, even have it way more or a higher price. But yeah, just in my preference, as not like a professional esports player, I would like a mouse that looks a little bit more fancy on my table with more lights and such. So starting with the cable, it got this really nice and braided cable. I think it's just the same one I use also in the SteelSeries Aerox. Really nice and high quality, nice and flexible as well. So I can't really see any issues with the cable here. I don't really get any binding, and for me it just almost feels like a wireless mouse. When it comes to the end that plugs into the mouse, you got a micro USB, maybe to save weight, I don't really know. But yeah, I don't really have any complaints when it comes to the cable, and that feels perfectly fine. On the sensor side, we have the TrueMove SteelSeries TrueMove Pro sensor that is like co-developed with PixArt for true like tracking and such, and it also is like able to sense lift off and such, so you don't really will not have unwanted effects when it comes to like fast movements and such. And for me, I think this mouse is really nice when it comes to tracking targets and overall like snapping in and aiming in on people. It just feels very accurate, and some of that is because of the TrueMove sensor. When it comes to switches, we got magnetical optical switches. I'm not sure if other optical switches are magnetical, but it definitely feels a little bit different when it comes to sound. And the good thing about these magnetical optical switches, they tell you, is that they are lightning fast because they are fully like digital, not mechanical. It's you got one sensor and then like border in between, and when you click, it lets like the light through the border into the sensor for like a super quick registering of your click. And with the mechanical like switch mechanism or like the resistance, you will also have a really long lifetime, and every click should feel absolutely the same. And I have to say, the click feel on this mouse here is something different from any other mouse that I've tested before. This Rocket Burst here got optical switches, and it got that clock sound. But this is like the optical magnetical, the magnetical thing, so it's a little bit more like snappy, and the precision of like the clicking is always like the same feeling. And you also got a nice big surface when it comes to clicking. Compare that to a mechanical switch. So when it comes to the build quality of this, it feels nice, it feels really hollow and such. I would compare it to the Rocket Burst when it comes to the build quality and how they have built it. It feels like this shell on the outside is not really hard plastic. It feels a little bit softer and hollow, but yeah, I don't have any complaints about that. So when it comes to the build quality and how it's built, it really reminds me of the Rocket Burst. It's not that like hard plastic like you find with this SteelSeries Rival 710, I believe, and this Aerox, but a little bit more of a softer shell. You can even maybe hear it, and it's really built the same way, I guess, or similar to the Rocket Burst. More of a softer shell around it, and it feels like hollow to the feeling. When it comes to comfort, I really like it as well. It's a little bit higher compared to other lightweight mouses, so when it comes to like your grip, I can't really get my hand to like hold around the mouse as well, but that is just adjustment. For me at least. I don't really mind this, how the design of this mouse here is. So even though it's got like a little bit higher center, I don't mind it, even though it's different compared to most other lightweight mouses. All of the switches are really nice. The main buttons, of course, got this nice clicky feel, as I said, and they also register the click on the whole surface, and it just feels very solid. And they always have the same clicking resistance and such because of the magnetic switch type in there. The scroll wheel also got this really nice and rounded feel. It looks like a little bit of a motorcycle tire, so it's really nice and easy to find while you're gaming to switch weapons. The side buttons are also really nice and easy to find. They're not really that large, and they also got that little bit of a sharp edge that you see in the Aerox. I'm not really like a big fan of the side buttons, but they work perfectly fine. But otherwise, ergonomics really nice, and I think overall it's really nice and control this mouse. It looks a little bit similar to the Rival 710, but of course this is much lighter and they have improved the design of it, but it got some similarities to the Rival 710. When it comes to the glide pads underneath, pure DFE, I don't really have too much to say about there. They look fairly big and such, and I don't really have any problems when it comes to the overall glide and such of the mouse. The only thing I don't really like too much about this mouse here is that you got the DPI mode switch on underneath the mouse. So I would like to have it on top to maybe switch it a little bit faster, because I like to have a lower sense while gaming and then switch to have a higher sense in menus and overall in Windows as well. So I wouldn't really get this for an office mouse, but for gaming, I think this really is one of the best mouses overall that I've ever tested. So I think this will stay on my gaming desk or desktop for now, even though I find the design not to be that cool, and I would wish there were some more RGB lighting to this. Maybe in the future we will have one where they will be able to still hold the weight down and maybe include a little bit more of RGB lights into it as well.